Step 1. Shutting off the water. This is a multi-turn toilet shutoff valve. We must turn the handle several times all the way to the right, righty-tighty. This toilet had a bidet toilet seat attachment where the bidet was drawing warm water from the hot side shutoff valve on the lavatory sink. It is always best to turn off all the shutoff valves present when a bidet is involved. If you do not, it is possible water can travel through the faucet out the shutoff valves. After shutting off all the water, you must flush the toilet to get as much water out of that tank as possible. Step 2. Removal of the toilet tank lid and toilet flushing mechanism handle. Always take the toilet lid away from your work area. I myself have broken many toilet tank lids in my time, and it's hard to get a replacement lid. Here we take off the toilet handle mechanism. I used a 1/4-inch nut driver to remove the toilet handle flush lever. A nut driver is always better to use than a Phillips or a flathead if you have it handy. A nut driver is less likely to strip a screw because it grips the whole head of the screw. Step 3. Removing the toilet supply line. Here we are unscrewing the bidet's T connection from the 7/8 shank coming from the toilet 503 flushmate bladder. Make sure that you have a rag to catch the water. Also, make sure there's no debris in the water supply line. That could mess up the new unit. Step 4. Unscrew the tank from the bowl. To unscrew the tank from the bowl, we use a 1/2-inch nut driver and a pair of baby channel locks. The 1/2-inch nut driver is a very common size tank to bowl bolts on all Kohler toilets. It's usually a 1/2-inch nut driver. The back bolt usually requires a baby channel lock because the nut driver does not fit to unscrew the back bolt. When removing the tank from the bowl, stand squarely in front of the tank, grab the tank with both hands, lift up the toilet seat, all the built up water that's in the leaking toilet tank, just drain that water, and then you can place the tank on the floor and get ready to work on it. Step 6. Removal of the old toilet parts and installation of the new toilet parts. Now that we have the toilet tank upside down on the floor, first we must remove the old 3-inch black tank to bowl gasket. Then we unscrew the plastic 7/8 nut from the water feed shank. After doing that, the next step is to unscrew the 3-inch plastic nut off the discharge hole of the 503 flushmate bladder. After unscrewing those 2 plastic nuts, the bladder will come free from the tank. Lift the tank to release the bladder. You can see the old bladder was leaking inside the tank from the seams. There are 2 3-inch gaskets that come with the new bladder. The smaller gasket goes inside the tank, and the larger gasket goes on the outside of the tank. Place the smaller gasket on the new flushmate water discharge shank. I always like to put a little plumber's grease on the rubber gaskets to make them last a little longer. Rubber gaskets will dry out, get brittle, and break, causing a toilet leak. Before placing the new bladder in the tank, make sure the bottom inside of the tank is clean and flush. If there's any gunk or growth in the tank, this will cause the gasket not to seal properly, and you will have a toilet leak. Look at all that nasty stuff in the tank. There was so much growth, I had to hit it with a razor to get it all out, but I got it out. Now that the inside of the tank is clean, place that bladder inside that tank and lay the tank sideways. Hand tighten that 3-inch gasket and nut. Then you can flip the tank upside down again to properly tighten that 3-inch nut. That 3-inch nut is what basically holds the whole bladder in place. The 7/8 nut, it's just that we tightened, it's just a water feed hose connection. The new bladder did not come with the new tank to bowl washers, so I'll grease them up and grease up the old washers to give them a little bit more life. Step 7. Cleaning the toilet bowl connection. Make sure to thoroughly clean the bowl of all grime and growth, or else the tank to bowl gasket will leak. Step 8. Placing the new rebuilt toilet tank on the bowl. Make sure to firmly grasp the tank and look where those bolts are going, and very gently place the tank on the bowl. Be sure not to slam that tank on the bowl, or else the toilet bowl will break. When screwing on the tank to bowl bolts, place the washer first, then hand screw the nut onto the washer. After all the nuts are in place, as far as you can hand tighten them, use your 1/2-inch nut driver and a baby channel locks to properly tighten them. Step 9. Reconnect water lines and test. When reconnecting a toilet water supply line, I always change the supply line. I prefer braided supply lines to rigid supply lines because I respond to many more rigid supply line leaks than braided supply line leaks. On a rigid toilet supply line, heavy people tend to slam down on the toilet and they make that hard supply line move because it has no play and then it leaks. The braided supply line has elasticity, so when somebody slams down on that toilet, the braided supply line can absorb that shock. Also, toilet parts wear out every couple years, so every time they call you for a service on the toilet, just put a new supply line on it. They're only a couple bucks at the hardware store. Before connecting that supply line to the tank, you must expel as much water as you can. Make sure there's no debris in that line. Sometimes there's debris in the line, and if there is, you will damage that bladder. Then reconnect the bidet T and connect the T to the 7/8 water feed. Turn on the water. After turning on the water, there's a little nut on the right-hand corner of that flush mate. Turn it a little bit to bleed out the air from that bladder while it's filling up. The second and last step is to reconnect that toilet handle mechanism. Step 10. Testing for leaks. The last step is to check for any leaks with our trusty high-powered flashlight. You dry everything off, flush the toilet numerous times, and try to make it leak. If it doesn't leak, you've completed the job. Good job.